Okay. Hi everyone, it's me again, and today I'm doing this a little bit differently. I'm not going to have a conversation with a fellow recruiter or anything like that. I'm going to have a conversation with a job seeker. I got this idea after my conversation with Durval the other week because he applied for a job with us at Tokaboka. And after our conversation, he wrote a post on LinkedIn about his experiences as a job seeker, having various interviews during this pandemic via phone, via Zoom, and how he has experienced that. And obviously, I was really flattered because he mentioned our conversation as a really positive one, which is great. But that gave me this idea to have this video conversation and hearing what it's like to look for a job right now and what, in his view, is a good conversation with a recruiter and what is a bad one. And I'd really like to hear the candidate side of the recruitment aspect. But first of all, Durval, could you just introduce yourself? Who are you and what do you do and what kind of work are you looking for right now?
Okay, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Durval. I'm a Portuguese Unity developer. I've worked in every job I got. It was in Unity as a Unity developer. First, I started in architecture visualization in Lisbon. Then I moved to the gaming industry in Stockholm. It was a good time. Then I returned to Portugal after that to continue to work on video games. And I quit to do volunteering work. That was like my last adventure. And after that, I started to search Unity roles in the whole Europe, trying to find a good position with Unity. If in games, the better. And but yeah, I got hit like everyone else by the pandemic, and that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and I think you're obviously looking for work all over Europe, which are giving you a lot more options than if you were to just look in Portugal. So with that, I'm taking you've managed to get a few in at least. Have you had a lot of interviews?
Yes, I think by now it must be like around 20, more or less, that, because I really I did a deep search on LinkedIn jobs, Glassdoor jobs, so I really tried to make the most contacts possible. So yeah, that gave sometimes it's already like a no if they don't got the position available, or something like that. But in the end, it allowed me to have at least a lot of first interviews and to talk with a lot of different people from different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, you wrote that post about your experience. Why did you write that post? You know what? You don't have to write about that. So, what made you decide to write publicly on LinkedIn about your experiences?
I think that it was because what I wrote about, especially like the less positive side of it, I think it was because it was a behavior that I was starting to see like a pattern and not like a one thing that happened with one person. So I think that it was something that maybe some recruiter or some recruiters at LinkedIn can read about, and I think that they can see it as a something that they may be like thoughtful about in their next interviews. So I think that in the same way that I like, or any candidate likes to receive like a feedback, even if it's a negative response, to
Mm-hmm.
learn from it, from his mistakes, or not mistakes, but something that can be improved. I think that that was my way of telling recruiters in LinkedIn, or inform them that this behavior maybe something they shouldn't do. And also besides that, because I think that when it comes to human connections, sometimes it's more, I think that it's something that it's a level higher in the pyramid um, of importance. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's not just a technical thing, or you use this software, or you told that, or if you're making a test you did this wrong. No, it's about human connection. I think that
Mm-hmm.
that should be an even higher priority. So I think that I felt like I should share with everyone.
And for those who haven't read the post yet, I will put a link in the comments that people can see your original post. What was it that, with the experiences with recruiters that wasn't that good, what was it that the recruiters were doing to give off a bad impression?
uh, I think it's the main thing was that, and I first of all I wrote that also it was that I kind of understand what may lead to it, because the thing was that I was noticing like some recruiters watching or looking at their screen and laughing a little bit and looking around, like you wouldn't, I could understand that they were or looking at other conversations or something else, and that they were kind of their attention was there. And first
Mm-hmm.
of all, I'm the first to understand and to realize that in this context it's uh, I think it's normal and understandable that their attention is even more spread than usually, because they don't have their people around, and they part of the job is to be listening to everyone else in the team
Mm-hmm.
in their screen. So I kind of understand in this context what can promote that type of behavior. But I think that in what shouldn't happen is when you feel that, okay, it's not someone looking at something and reading and it's a moment thing. It's like for someone to laugh or to show a reaction or a response to something that's not what you're talking.
Mm-hmm.
It may look strange, because I think that's what would happen if I was right now explaining this to you, and you and I saw you looking at your phone or looking at someone else or on the screen, and I
Yeah.
could see that your reactions wasn't about what I was talking about. So I think that's like a thing that I felt that it's, I understand why it could happen, but I think that
Mm-hmm.
it shouldn't, because it's something that even if in a face-to-face um connection or contact,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel right. I think that
I
was the
think
main.
maybe you're almost forgetting that you're on camera, because I think if you're in a face-to-face meeting with somebody, you're not going to be looking at your computer screen at the same time. Maybe to make notes, but you are going to be looking at the person in a different way, and you're not going to be sitting there reading Slack messages, because in a face-to-face situation, you're not sitting there with your laptop right in front of you in the same way. And
Yes, it may be that, but the thing is, when the responses involve, for instance, it's a special, I think, condition that when the response of the other person involves, for instance, a smile or a laugh,
Mhm,
I think it's normal for us humans to question while we are
mhm,
talking, like to question ourselves: is this about what I'm telling? Is this like
mhm.
is someone making or laughing at me or making fun of me? So I think that's also another layer of why I felt like, I don't know if this is okay, because I think that if I did this to someone else, I could understand if they felt a little bit like stressed about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that that was
So
the main
it
reason.
was a feeling that their attention was somewhere else and not on you.
Yes, yes.
And going back to the good side then, because obviously out of 20 interviews, I'm hoping that those were just a few of them. So you've
Yeah,
also
yeah,
had
yeah.
good experience, and we had, obviously we didn't do it through a video. We had a phone conversation. But what would you say that what made our conversation a good one? Why did you have a good experience with our conversation?
I think it's all about. I think it's people from HR. The main focus is the H. So I think it's all about humanity. It's all about like uh, feeling that the other person is being honest. Because, for instance, sometimes if you here in Portugal, I don't apply. A lot to Portugal because there's very few Unity roles here, so I don't have many interactions here. But uh, a lot of the IT jobs here are related to consulting companies and like a more serious,
Mm,
Thomas quotes, but a more serious approach and formal. So I think that that also puts me sometimes a little bit off because I think that if you feel that that person is forced and is being forced, it's not the fault of most of the time. It's not the fault of the professional. It's like the company he represents wants to show that formality. I think that at least to me it comes off like a little bit artificial, like they're following a plan,
it's great.
a character, yeah, a character they have to, a role they have to fulfill. And I think that it may sound professional, but it may not sound human.
Mm,
And I think that's the key component of any talk with a recruiter. It's to feel that he's being honest, he's being cool with you, but not at the same, not being too formal, but and also not being like I'm going to say too kind, but it's not
mm,
the kindness that's the problem. It's to feel that so kind or so happy or so trying
not
to
fake.
show something, yeah, that it's comes off as a little bit fake. So I think that, for instance, uh, like in your example, like if the person that you're talking to, if he shares for instance some of his experience, his stories, if he also shares like some not so good examples of his professional opportunities, what happened. I think that that's like it's in the same way what I talked about the negatives. It's like if you take this conversation and you apply it to your life, regular life, real life, with the person in front of you, you feel a connection. If you feel like, okay, this human being allowed me to take a peek inside like his personal history, his
Mhm.
his real me, he's a real person. And in the conversations with the recruiters, I think it's the same. It's sometimes you really feel like this person allow me to take a look in his history, in
Mhm.
his like his real self, so you feel at ease to show your vulnerabilities, what you want, what you really want, what you are afraid of. And that makes a lot of whole lot of difference in this conversation.
So it's basically just being a human being speaking to another human being and paying attention to what they're saying, really.
Yeah, it's when you say it's like, or if you say to yourself, it sounds so simple, but I think that it's really valuable. Sometimes like the most valuable things are the simplest ones. And I think this is
Yeah.
a case of sounding simple, but sometimes because we are, well, we are in a specific, in a professional context. On top of that, there's this context of the pandemic, of the being most of the times at home, but having a lot of distractions around, a lot of things on your mind
Mhm.
from your personal life. That to put it like in practice, sometimes it's not as easy. So that's why gave value to you and to the other recruiters that gave me a very good experience.
Yeah, and what made me really happy reading that post from you was that I do make a conscious effort to try and make everyone applying for a job at Toca Boca, or whether I'm working for another client, to have a good experience, whether they are successful or not. Like in your case, you know, after our conversation, we came to the conclusion that this particular job, we're looking for some, you know, somebody a bit different. But that doesn't mean I still think that you should. So it made me really happy that even though I basically will turn you down, that you still had a positive experience from that. And like I said, well, I do make a conscious effort that I want everyone who I get in touch with, whether it's through email, phone call, or an actual video interview, no matter what the outcome, I want them to have had a positive experience. So it made me happy to know that I'm at least partly successful in doing that.
Yeah, you deserve to feel that way.
Thank you. And but thinking of another thing that's a lot with job seekers, and that I see a lot of people complaining about, is the lack of feedback, and maybe after an interview being ghosted by recruiters, as if like never ever hearing back after the conversation. What's your experience been with that? Have you been given feedback? Have you heard back, or are people staying quiet after the interviews?
No, I think that actually I think the only at I think before I have been ghosted sometimes, but I think that right now the only opportunity that I had, or the only experience like that I had, I think it was the only one in Portugal that I applied to actually. So I think that for instance, some companies, they have already like some systems when the application is online that can give feedback, automatic feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, that's better than nothing, but that's not the perfect feedback, of course. But sometimes recruiters just, for instance, forward the message from the person of the company that I'm applying
Mm-hmm.
to, and they showed me. But I think actually that specifically at this moment, like I had like 3 times in my career that I switched jobs, so I had like 3 times of job seeking.
Mm-hmm.
But I think definitely that this one was the one that I made more applications, and also that I got more responses from the recruiter. So I think
Good.
I'm seeing an improvement on that, and I think that it makes like a very big difference, because you really want to learn from every experience that you have. And I think that but I think that that's a situation in which I usually don't put like when I think of it, at least I don't put I don't put a lot of the responsibility on the recruiter, because I don't know what's behind that. Like I don't know what's the company's policy about giving feedback. I don't know, for instance, if the developer that reviews the challenge, or if
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the next stage, if they give feedback to detailed feedback to the recruiter to inform
Mm.
the candidate what happened wrong. Uh, so that's something that I wish to always see and to always have. But I think that it could be unfair for candidates to always put the responsibility of that on the recruiter, because we don't know what's behind the curtain, like
Mm-hmm.
what's the other side of the
Yeah.
of the board. to try to put all the responsibility on his shoulders. But I definitely I'm watching an improvement. I think that I
That's
see
good.
more effort in that. Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, I like to hear that. But I think also in terms of sometimes I think the further down the process you are, the more kind of individual feedback you should
Yes, yes, yes,
expect.
yes, yes.
But in terms of sending in your CV and getting a no thank you, recruiters can't always give an individual feedback on every CV they get. But once you've kind of been spoken to and further down the process, it's the more individual, at least I believe the more individual the feedback should be. But in the first application stage, as a recruiter, I really don't have the possibility to give individual feedback on somebody's CV. But we, like, for example, after our conversation, I was able to tell you, a bit more what we were looking for and why we decided not to proceed. So, but that because we had that conversation. But I wouldn't
Yeah,
have been able to do that on a CV level.
but it's good you're mentioning that, because I actually this during these past weeks I had like one or two also very good experiences with recruiters taking the time to look for my CV because of a specific role, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
giving me like not general feedback or doing put this on a specific format or something, but no, really looking at the CV and telling me like, okay, I think you should after talking to you, I think what you should put in this sentence or that sentence, I think it would be better if it was this, and it was really better. In they were right to think that, and I changed it, and it was very a very helpful advice, and that was specific to me, so that you can see also on that okay, that this person took the time in between a trillion, gazillion, thousand of CVs to actually read and to give his opinion on that. And man, I thank him like a lot for that.
That's really nice. Have you have you noticed a difference? Obviously, you're applying to jobs in various countries. Is there a difference between countries how recruiters behave?
I th- well, I think that sometimes I may be thinking about a recruiter from one country, but he may have like another nationality or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
At least in between companies, I actually feel that although sometimes in theory people think the contrary, what the experience I've been having is that as I go up in Europe, uh, I think they are being like a little bit more kind, more kind. I don't know if that's the correct word, but at least more.
More
Uh,
human.
yeah, more happy, more like laid back. Maybe, but I think that also I can. I don't know if I can relate, but at least from sometimes the video calls and from the voice when it's talked, I think that as I go upper in Europe, I have been getting like people with a little bit more age,
Hmm.
and that's the people is giving me like that laid back, chill, calm conversation. And I think that from the countries like uh, here near Portugal, in the southern part of Europe, I see that the recruiters and the HR people are younger, and sometimes they came across a little bit more cold or more nervous, more, like
Maybe
more.
they're more inexperienced and therefore
Yes,
more insecure.
yes, that's also why I'm I'm saying that, yeah, I've noticed this difference in age, and that may be part of the difference in the approach and in the.
So you're basically calling me old.
No, no. No, I don't even. I can't call you old because I don't even know
It's
your
a
age.
joke. I'm joking. But it's been really nice to talk to you and get your view on things and your experience. But in order to kind of help you a little bit in your job seeking, could you let us know what kind of position is it that you're looking for in case we do have any recruiters from a game studio watching this? What is it that you are looking for?
Okay, I'm looking for a Unity, if possible, gameplay related position. What I've done in the past was more focused on UI, on audio. That's also something that I've worked quite a bit on the past. I really love game design. I read a lot about it, and I study about it. And in every company I've been working, whenever I can snatch like game design related tasks, I would grab it and make and learn from it. Uh, but yeah, I really love like game dev, almost every aspect of it, from even the business side. I like to read a lot about it. So I think that that's probably my biggest what I bring different than other people, because sometimes people are only looking at the technical skills, and I think in terms of technical skills I'm a mid-level Unity. I don't feel that I have the experience to be a senior, nor the years, because part of my professional years were not on the game industry or in Unity, but we're not on game industry. So I feel that I still need to learn a bit and to work a bit, a couple more years to feel like I'm ready for senior positions.
Mm-hmm.
In technical terms, I'm a mid-level Unity developer that loves video games, but I think that's sometimes what it's different or difficult for me. I'm sorry, to come across in challenges or in conversations, is that I really like all the aspects of game dev, and that sometimes that passion or that knowledge about not being just someone that will do what is asked inside Unity, that I can bring to the teams, and sometimes some team leaders that I had or some bosses that I had also mentioned that to me, like, okay, you may not know about this, for instance, as your older colleagues, but you have this knowledge about games or about game design or something that you can bring to a team. That, because for instance on the last game I worked, the company in itself was not a gaming company but was making a game, so it was valuable for them that I could bring like this knowledge about games, game design, to have the will and the passion to talk about stuff, to show, to propose things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's me. Sorry if I took a little bit
No,
too
that's,
long.
I know I asked you to do this. You're taking your time to record this with me, so I thought at least the least thing I can give back is give you the opportunity to tell the recruiters what you're looking for. So let's hope that there are some recruiters out there who are interested in a Unity developer with an interested in the game design aspects as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you
Let's
very
wait.
much for taking the time to talk to me, and I wish you the very best in finding that job anywhere in Europe.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity and for also for doing this. And I know that you will inspire other recruiters, and you'll teach and share knowledge with them. And I think it's very noble and very kind.